So we are going to be creating pattern for a simple darted blouse with fitted waistline and then fitted under bust. So first thing we do is that we lay our paper horizontally and then we start marking our vertical lines. First, I'm going to use the upper edge of the paper as my neckline. Then 1 inch below, I will mark my shoulder line. Then 6 to 7 inches below will be my chest line. If someone has a bust of more than 36 or 36 and above, you can use a chest line of 7. Then you mark the chest line of 7. Then you mark the bust position from the neckline, that's the upper edge. Then you mark the under bust, you mark the high waist position, you mark the full length of the blouse, and then of course you mark the hem. So in this particular class, I'm going to use 0.5 inches as my hem allowance after marking all my lines. So my lines are all ready. So I'm going to connect them. I'm going to connect all these vertical markings with a horizontal line. Okay. So I'm using markers so that you can be able to see my lines properly. So the first line you can see below, the marked one is a shoulder line. Apart from the upper edge of the paper will be used as the neckline. Then 1 inch below, shoulder line, chest line, 7 inches below, bust line, and then we connect with our metal rule. So it's always important that you mark the lines at the beginning of the paper, the middle of the paper, and the end of the paper, so that your lines will be straight. Don't do lazy marking whereby you just maybe mark at the beginning and then you just connect with your ruler. It will never really be straight. So just mark at the 3 cardinal points and connect. So now I have my lines all beautifully connected. I can actually choose to label them or I can choose to leave them. So for the sake of learning, since you're doing it for the first or second time, you can just go ahead and label the lines. Okay, you can see the line. I'm just trying to give you a feel of the uppermost line, which is the neckline. So that's the neckline, shoulder line, chest line, armhole line. Then I have the high waist. Sorry, that's my high waist line, not the bust line. So I have the high waist line. So I'm just going to go back and remark my busts and under bust lines, all from the neckline. Please do not start your measurements from the shoulder line. It's not okay at all, because you still have a shoulder slant. So don't start your measurement from the shoulder slant. You're going to start from the uppermost part. So now that our lines are ready, we're ready to start drawing our patterns. So the first thing I'm going to put here is our neck width. Neck width says how wide is your neck from the center back. So I'm going to use a standard measurement of 3 inches. You can choose to use a wider one. You can choose to use something thinner. You can choose to use, but 3 is like a standard for adults. Then you can now modify it based on the sizes. So I'm going to mark 3 inches from the neckline down to the neck depth. Neck depth says how deep is your neck how deep is your neckline from your neckline, like how deep is the neck shape from the neckline. You wouldn't want something that shows your cleavage, so we could probably just use 6.5 for this one. So after marking the 6.5, I just connected it to the neck width so that we can have a box. For this particular neckline, I'm using a round neck. There are also different kinds of necklines. So but for now, I'm going to be teaching you how to work on a round neck. So I've marked my 2 cm curve and I've been able to draw in my neck curve. You can actually use a French curve for this. So the next thing we did was to mark the shoulder measurement. So from the center front, we measured from the center front line. From the center front line, we measured shoulder divided by 2 and we marked. After marking it, we now had to connect it to the neck point above. So the next line we're going to mark on the chest line is shoulder divided by 2. Whatever you get, you minus half. So if I had 7 on my shoulder line, on the armhole line I'll have 6.5. I'm also going to mark the same 6.5 on my I'm going to have 6.5 on my chest line. I'll also mark it on my armhole line. Then I'll now connect it just like I'm doing now. So now on the armhole line, I'm going to still mark round bust divided by 4. I marked a round bust divided by 4 of 9 inches. That's 36 divided by 4. I have 9 inches. So I marked it on the armhole. I still went ahead to mark it on the bust line. So when I get to the full length and the hem line, I'm going to mark round bust divided by 4 plus 3 inches because I want a flare effect. So that's how I'm now having 12 inches at the full length and hem line of this particular blouse. So I'm going to go ahead and connect it with my marker, all nice and easy. So please do well to repeat this process. Don't finish watching this video before you start practicing. You can be watching and practicing to avoid a situation whereby you're going to forget everything while you won't start making the pattern and then you start getting all fussy. So next thing we do is that we're going to go over to the back piece. The very first thing you do when you go over to the back piece is to measure your zip allowance. So from the edge of the paper, I'm going to measure 1.5 inches, and that 1.5 inches is going to serve as my zip allowance. Then I'm going to connect the line all the way from the neckline to the hemline, and this line now that I have drawn will now serve as the center back piece. Okay, so any measurement I'm taking, CB is center back. Any measurement I'm taking is starting from that center back piece. I do not have any business with the zip allowance. So from that center back piece, you can measure your neck width of 3 inches. For this simple darted blouse, the neck width you use in front is the same thing as the neck width you use at the back. So on the shoulder line, you measure shoulder divided by 2. And you mark just like I have done. You get to the chest line and measure shoulder divided by 2 and you still mark. You get to the armhole line, mark shoulder divided by 2 and you still mark it on the line. Please do not mark above the line, do not mark below the line. So you just connect as shown. You can see how my slant comes from the neckline. It just cuts through to the shoulder slant so that we can have a nice slant. So when I get to the armhole line, I'm still going to mark round bust divided by 4 in addition to the shoulder divided by 2 measurement that I've already marked. So I'll still get to the bust position and I'll mark round bust divided by 4. But when I get to the edge, I'll do round bust divided by 4 plus an extra 3 inches because I want a kind of flare effect. I don't want it to stick to my body. I don't want it to be that fitted at the edge. I want it to have this flare kind of, it's not like a flare, but then, you know, just leave my body a bit. So that's why I'm adding 3 inches. So far, we're done marking the patterns for the front and the back, but you can see it's shapeless. There's no kind of shape here, and we're not trying to make an outfit that is thoroughly shapeless. We want something that sticks to the body. So what we will need to do now is to mark our dart position. We need to do our high waist shaping That high waist shaping ensures that you have a perfectly fitted high waistline, that your darts are properly done and properly aligned, and you can actually see the beautiful curvy shape of a woman, looking at the darting and all of that. So the first step ever in high waist shaping is to divide the round high waist by 2. Now, for someone that has a round high waist of 34, which is what I'm working with, we're going to be working with 34 divided by 2, 17. So my dear, we're going to start looking for 17 from the front. So I could just label the space A, call the side B, call the side of the back C, and then call the center of the back D. Now you're interested in finding 17 in the middle of A, B, C, D. Okay, so let us start looking for 17. Once we find 17, we are going to stop. So now we're going to take our tape. Come with me. So this is what is called high waist shaping. So now I'm looking for 17. In front I got 10.5. I'm not looking for 10.5. It's not yet enough. So I'm still going to hold on to that 10.5 on the tape and continue until I get 17. Okay. So once I get 17, that point I'll call it E. So now what you have to note is that the point E to D is excess. We only need 17 because we only need half of the round high waist. The front pattern and the back pattern should give you exactly half of the round high waist on the high waistline. So we just do it in centimeters. Have our 1 cm, 1.5 cm, 2 cm. So let's see what we have here. So here we have excess of 10.5 centimeters. And yes, there is a range we work with whenever we want to do high waist darting and under bust darting. I mean high waist shaping, under bust shaping, and we want the dart to hold our bust very well. So okay, so first I'm going to mark my dart position. For you to get your dart position, you're going to take the measurement of the nipple to nipple and divide it by 2. So for the measurement I'm working with, the nipple to nipple is 7, so I had to divide 7 by 2. So after dividing 7 by 2, I got 3.5, and I had to mark it on the high waistline, full length line, all the way to the armhole of the blouse. So I'm creating a table. A table is this is like the range of measurements that we work with. When someone has a round bust of 32 to 34, we use under busts and high waist darts of 2.5 cm to 3 cm. If someone has a round bust of 34 to 36, we use busts that under busts and high waist dart of 3 cm to 3.5. So if someone has 36 to 38, we still use 3 cm to 3.5. 38 to 40, we use about 4 cm, and 3.5 cm to 4 cm. If someone has a dart of if someone has a bust of 40 inches and above, we use 4 cm to 4.5 cm. So these are the ranges. So now I'm making an outfit for someone that has a round bust of 36. I'm going to be using dart of 3 cm, 3 cm to the left of the dart line and 3 cm to the right of the dart line. Please note that this is for the front only, not for the back. This is for the front because we want the front to have a very, very perfectly fitted curve. So I don't want to pack 3 cm on one side and pack 3 cm on the other side. It's going to be a total of 6. So around towards the center, I'm going to mark 2 cm. Then on the other side, I'm going to mark 4 cm to give me a total of 6 centimeters. Okay, I'm still going to end up using 6 cm, so it's still fine. So you're going to connect it like so. You're going to connect from the high waist to the hemline. After connecting from the high waist to the hemline, you now connect your dart to the under bust line. So for the back dart position, in addition to the original dart position of the front, which we use 3.5 for the front, we're going to add an extra 0.75 inches or 1 inch for the back. And the reason is because of the dart, the zip shaping we're going to use, which will push the dart position of the back. So now we're going to mark it all through. We're going to mark it all the way to the armhole. Sometimes it might just exceed, but then we're going to stop our back dart at the armhole. So for the back, if I want the back to sit very well, generally I use 2 cm to the left and I use 2 cm to the right if I want it to sit very well. Now we're talking about a perfectly fitted blouse, and this is it, 2 cm, 2 cm. So we've used 6 cm for the front, we've used 4 cm for the back. So you always have to mark it on the high waistline, and then you connect to the hemline. You connect the left to the hemline, and then you go ahead and connect it to the armhole line. Please don't exceed the armhole. Okay, so now we're done marking our darts for the back.